Speaking of your past, have you ever studied under any other artist, Dave?
Well, I'm mainly a self-taught artist, but I did for a short time study under someone called Roberta Bear. Roberta was all about, she liked to paint basset hounds. That was her specialty. In fact, I never saw her paint anything but that. She was very good at it, and she just kind of specialized in that. That's what brought her joy. For a short time, I studied in her studio with about 5 or 6 other painters. And I was very young at the time, probably 11 or 12, so I would bring in the subject matter I wanted to paint. Usually it was a picture that I was copying or something like that. I wasn't old enough yet to understand composition and really what I was doing. And so she would then watch, help me mix colors, give me tips. And but that was only for about a year. Then she kind of stopped accepting younger people and concentrated on older people. So for about a year I had some direction, but most of what I do is self-taught.
So how much art have you created, Dave?
Oh boy, if you count everything I've ever done and a lot of the drawings I've done, which look a lot like this, and of course other things too, probably I've got several thousand pieces of artwork laying around probably. The paintings, I probably got oil paintings, a couple hundred. They're on my walls everywhere. If you ask my wife, she'll tell you how many I have because they're in every room of the house. And I've got a room right next to my studio where we're at now that has a bunch of them hanging up. And different, they're drying or they're just there because I have several animals in the house, and so I don't want them to get into them. So I have to kind of put up for safety and for drying. But I have paintings everywhere, and several, probably a couple hundred I've given away to friends and sold, of course, that type of thing. They're everywhere.
And what motivates you to keep drawing or keeping? Sorry. What made?
Keep going.
Dave, what motivates you to keep painting?
Well, I think the thing that motivates me the most, I once read a story about, I think it might have been Beethoven, one of the famous composers. Might have been him or Bach, I can't remember which one, and I was reading a story about him, and it talked about how he was always writing a symphony in his mind. His regular day, he'd go somewhere and he'd be going like this, like he's conducting an orchestra, and inside of his head he could hear all these things. And he had to get them out onto paper, and he was doing these great symphonies, but he was writing them while he was eating, while he was doing his normal tasks during the day. And it's kind of like that for artists. And I know in my case, I'll get inspiration from something I see. It could be a song I hear, or it could be we went somewhere and we're traveling on vacation, and I saw a special design on something, and it kind of gets the wheels going. And I get a picture in my head of some of the artwork. I don't get an entire picture of the whole thing. Sometimes I get pretty close, and something like this will come from that, from a basic idea I get in my head, and it progresses from there.
And how long does it usually take you to create one of these beautiful paintings?
Well, something like this you're looking at here, this probably took me, if I remember right, probably took me about 2 weeks. Different variations. Sometimes I only have a few minutes. Depends on what I'm doing during the day. Sometimes, I know one of my pieces of art that I painted one time, I started late at night. Actually, I probably started around 7 or 8 o'clock, and my wife came up after watching something on TV and said, "I'm going to bed, you coming in soon?" And I said, "Yeah, probably about another half an hour." Well, I painted all night, and I was there till about 7 in the morning, and it seemed just like a half an hour to me. In fact, when I realized what time it was and I saw the sun coming through the window, I could not believe I had been painting for hours and hours. And that painting's hanging in my studio storage space right next door here. And it just was an inspiration. So it depends. Depending on my schedule, it can take anywhere from 2 to 3 days to 2 to 3 weeks.
Now, what can we expect from the future of Dave Jeffers as an artist?
Well, if you ask my wife, she's afraid of my picture, because see, these we consider big. Now, but I really am, I guess you could say, itching to go bigger. Problem is, though, I have an in-home studio right now, because that's what works the best for us, and getting it in and out the door is going to be a problem after a while. And I also am on the second floor, so getting it up the stairs. So I'm kind of constrained by the room I have. And I've created some bigger pieces. You can see the one in back of me, which is not a mind flexion, abstract, but sort of is more of a, I would call it, I can't remember the name of it. What's it called? More like an impressionistic. So the one hanging in the back is more of an impressionistic type scene. You can tell what it is, but the colors are mainly mine. The composition isn't made to be incredibly realistic. You can tell what everything is when you look at it, but I love working with the colors and the shapes, and sometimes I get off on tangents with that. And something that was supposed to be realistic will wind up being something entirely different, more like an abstract, just because that's the way I like to work.
And I think that's it. Dave, thanks for taking your time. We're just going to take a picture of your studio. So if you want to pretend you're painting, that would be really cool. And then we could show everyone where you can just describe your studio and what you have and what you use.
Okay? You want me to...
Let me do that again. 'Cause we can end that.